Hey, it's Lisa Wade here with part 2 of the Art of Soulful Surrender series. Now I know surrender, probably still not your favorite word, but through this series, I'm giving you 5 different ways to think about the thoughts and the concept of surrender in such a way that even if you can choose one, even if you can just practice one of these ways of surrendering the ego, of surrendering fear, of surrendering the need to control, so that you might be able to align more and be guided more and co-create more with your soul. That's really what this whole idea of soulful surrender is all about. So in part 2, the invitation is to surrender the need to be right. Surrender the need to be right, and also the need to prove other people wrong. This gets into interesting territory because especially right now, leading up to the 2020 presidential election here in the United States, there's a lot of people who think that they're absolutely right, and a lot of people who are 180 degrees opposed to their belief systems, who believe that they are absolutely right and the other side is absolutely wrong. And has somebody who has played in that field, who was in the field of politics, of campaigns, of advocacy for most of my career, I understand the passions and the energy that can be at work behind that. There are causes, there are things that we care very, very, very much about. And we think, by God, this is the only way to look at it that's right. And you are wrong, no matter what the issue might be. And what I'm learning is that as we are moving toward a higher consciousness way of looking at things, a higher consciousness opportunity in terms of how we are, how we show up, how we can be in this world, that this whole idea of right and wrong, of trying to prove others wrong, that there's only one way to look at things, just isn't really how it works. Now, many of us might think, damn it, truth needs to be absolute. I mean, if it's truth, then it must be absolute. And that's not even true. And this is honestly where my mind starts going, what do you mean truth can be relative? But it can. And it depends on our personal preferences, our personal belief systems, values, the lens through which we see the world, and even our level of consciousness helps determine what is true for us. And what is true for me, and what is true for you, or for somebody else, or the neighbor down the street, or the person with the opposing party's political sign in their yard, or whatever. All of those things can actually be true without anyone being wrong. Now, it's really easy for us to say, bullshit. My way of looking at the world is the right way, or my candidate is the right candidate, and all of you who disagree, not only are you wrong, but you're crazy and full of shit, and you're the problem. And we see a whole lot of that going on right now. It's at, a level that feels unprecedented in a long time. That kind of energy that is pervasive all around us. Let's get away from politics for a minute, though, and talk about some simpler, ways to think about this. We've all probably seen the meme of two people facing each other in an argument, and the argument is over a number that is drawn on the floor between them. Person over here is absolutely convinced that that number is a 9 because from their perspective, it's a 9. This person over here absolutely convinced that that number is a 6 because from their perspective, it is a 6. Now, which of them is correct? They both are. They're just looking at the very same thing from 2 different vantage points. Now, that's fine and dandy for a meme, but can it get more real? For some reason lately, all of my let's get more real analogies have come back to beat up cars or trucks in this instance. I want to tell you a little story about a truck that I actually loved and appreciated, and that my husband at the time did not at all. this particular truck was an old, I think it was a 1991 Chevy Silverado. It was a manual transmission, 5-speed, 4x4, beat up, Bondo on the body. It had all kinds of character, smoked like a beast, and I loved this truck. Okay, I traded 2 riding lawnmowers to get this truck, and I loved the truck. Now, my husband at the time didn't really like to drive the truck. Number one, there was no air conditioning. The windows were rolled down like this. It was a 5-speed. He wasn't really a fan. And I mean, it was a beater, right? I mean, it was not pretty. So he was not a fan of this truck, but I loved the truck. Which one of us was right? Which one of us was right? Well, we both were, right? For us. I enjoyed driving it. I kind of felt like a badass. I'll be honest when I drove it because A, it was fun. It had a lot of power and it would do things that, my car at the time SUV couldn't do. I could haul stuff in it. I could take it to the dump and like dump tree limbs when ice storms brought my tree limbs down. It was useful. It was super useful. He had no use for it. It just wasn't his style. It wasn't his taste. It wasn't his preference. He wanted a Lexus sports car. That's what he wanted. Okay, there's nothing wrong with that either. Neither one of us was wrong in our thoughts about this particular truck. Now, I will be honest, this is the one car I've ever driven that I had 4 random strangers on the street offer to buy from me on the spot. Why anybody else wanted that truck, I don't know, but they saw value in it too. Other people behind me probably cussed me when I drove it because it smoked so bad. It really didn't smell very good. All a matter of perspective. Who was right and who was wrong? Well, nobody was really wrong, and maybe everybody was right because we were looking at this particular truck through our own lens, through our own values and belief systems and sets of appreciation. Can we extend that to other people in our life and in our world? Can we give up the need to be right? Can we give up the need to prove other people wrong? Can we surrender to the idea that you can have your beliefs, I can have my beliefs, they may be completely 180 degrees different, and that's okay. Because we are each having our own experience in this life. We are both operating in a free will system where we get to choose what we believe, who we support, the things we care about, the ideals that we get passionate about. We get choice in all of that. And quite frankly, wouldn't the planet be really freaking boring if everyone agreed on everything? Even in a higher consciousness state of thinking, not everyone agrees on everything. There's always going to be diversity and difference of opinion. That's where creativity is allowed to flourish. That's where, texture and color and excitement in life is allowed to happen. But when we decide that someone else's truth and our truth are so opposed that we must demonize them, that becomes a problem. Because really, there's nothing good that's ever going to come of that. We're never going to change their opinion about something when we're demonizing them. It doesn't make us feel good, right? That trigger inside gets us all agitated to where we're walking around in a frustrated, agitated, weird energy state all day. That doesn't do us any good. It doesn't do the world or the earth any good to contribute to that kind of polarized energy at all. In fact, it makes the problem worse instead of making it better. Am I saying don't be passionate about the things you care about? Absolutely not. Be passionate. Be passionate. In fact, sometimes a bit of righteous indignation to fuel the effort to try to make things better for all people or for more people is very powerful and often very needed. That's how change happens. But demonizing others, belittling, dehumanizing others in the process of doing that actually makes the likelihood of success even smaller. So, as we're thinking about soulful surrender today, can we surrender our ego's need to be right? Can we surrender our ego's need to prove other people wrong and maybe even to criticize and, dehumanize them in the process? And instead, can we embrace our soul's perspective of passion and of beliefs and of values and of awareness, that we can believe what we want and need to believe, others can believe what they want or need to believe, and that we can actually coexist? I know that right now, with the energies, especially the political energies, the way they are surrounding us, that's a really hard hurdle to overcome. Trust me, I get it. I get it. And for myself, I can honestly tell you that I have found so much more peace by being confident and strong and absolutely supportive of my own beliefs and my own way of viewing the world, and allowing other people that same freedom, even when their beliefs were different than mine. There is a peace that comes with that. That's not to say I'm not going to advocate for the things I care about. It's not to say I'm going to sit home and not go vote, because you better damn well bet I'm going to be there. But it is to say that when we can step above the fray and not contribute to that kind of negativity and that negative energy, we actually have an opportunity to view the whole playing field from a higher perspective and start viewing the whole playing field and the issues that we care about more from a soul perspective rather than our little ego perspective. That's where inspired, positive change is able to happen. When we're down here in the mud, slinging mud at each other like a bunch of pigs, there's no inspired action happening there. None. And we have an opportunity to surrender that. So on day 2 of the Art of Soulful Surrender, you're simply invited and encouraged. Find opportunities where you can give up the need to be right, giving up the need to prove other people wrong, where you can sit in your beliefs, hold them firmly, know that that's what matters to you, but not feel the need to convince anybody else that you're right and they're wrong. When we can surrender into this, we allow greater grace in our relationships. We allow space for greater grace in the issues that we care about, in politics in general, in the world. Some of you who are very, very, very committed to this 3D beat 'em up game will think I'm completely batshit crazy in even saying that. No change ever happens without duking it out. And as long as we think that way, that will continue to be the way it is. We are moving into a different way of looking at things. We are moving into a different energy that's going to guide the things we care about, that's going to guide how we do politics, that's going to guide how we advocate on behalf of things, that's going to guide how we're able to come together to create change together, rather than staying pitted apart and trying to change things on the periphery. That kind of change isn't going to be super meaningful. When we can come together, that's when we can get toward unified change that makes a difference for everyone. And I know that seems like a big hurdle now, but the truth is, it's really clear that we're not going to get there through the politicians acting the way they're acting right now. Bipartisanship went away a long time ago in Washington. And I was there and kind of saw it exit, exit the Capitol. It's going to be up to us to create a different way. It's going to start with the way we approach our family, our friends, our conversations around the dinner table, and how we show up on our Facebook feed. It starts there. When we are so attached with our ego to the need to be right and the need to prove others wrong, we perpetuate the problem. We can stop that cycle. And I'm inviting you and encouraging you to stop the cycle. And this is just one more one more effort in the art of soulful surrender that can help us get to that place that is much more soul driven and soul led rather than being constrained and confined, constricted and constipated by the ego. Let's give it a shot.